Property doesn't always go up. It went up for our parents, but for Millennials and Gen Z in Malaysia today, the rules of the game have already long collapsed. And in this video, I'm going to show you why. Hi, I'm Timothy Tia, and today we're diving into one of Malaysia's biggest money myths, that buying property is always a guaranteed ticket to wealth. We'll break down why property worked for our parents, why it feels impossible for Millennials and Gen Z, and what the data says about Malaysia's housing market. And lastly, we'll end with what this means for our future. Let's rewind back to the 1980s and 1990s. Malaysia's economy was booming, GDP was growing close to 8 to 9% a year, population was exploding, and the country grew at almost 3% annually. Millions moved into cities like KL, JB, and Penang, and demand far outstripped supply. Developers couldn't build fast enough. The result? House prices shot up. Between 1990 and 1997, Malaysia's house index almost doubled, and in Malaysia, some detached homes went up 4 times in less than a decade. If you bought a property then, you really look like a genius, because prices always really did just go up. Fast forward to today, Millennials and Gen Z enter the market, but the story is very different. On paper, the numbers don't look worse. In 1989, the average house cost about 5.2 times of household income. Today, that multiple is still around 4 to 6 times. But here's the catch. In the 80s and 90s, wages were rising fast. So even if you stretched to buy, you could grow into your mortgage as your salary climbed. Today, wage growth is slow, about 3% a year, while property prices have risen faster, as much as 9 to 12% annually in the early 2010s. So Millennials and Gen Z don't grow into mortgages, they stay stretched for decades. And it's really worse when you look at what's actually being built. Bank Negara reports show that 57 to 61% of unsold homes are high-rise condos, many priced above 300,000 ringgit. And in Johor, thousands of luxury units were built for foreign buyers and are still sitting empty. In KL, average home prices can be close to 800,000 ringgit. In Penang, almost 475,000 ringgit. And in Johor, 437,000 ringgit. For young Malaysians, these prices are simply just out of reach. So why did property always go up for boomers, but not for us? There are key main drivers here. The first is population growth. Boomers had the tailwind of a baby boom. Urban population surged, and that meant there was a lot more demand for housing. Today, fertility has dropped below replacement, and Malaysia's population growth is down to about 1.2% a year. Fewer new households mean weaker demand, and then comes income growth. In the 80s and 90s, wages really rose with industrialization. Now our wages are more or less stagnant, and the cost of living eats into what little growth there is. Then there are the demand patterns. Our parents, during the baby boomer generation, bought landed houses. They were affordable, family-friendly, and today, Millennials and Gen Z are offered shoebox condos with 500 ringgit maintenance fees, and developers chased investors, not necessarily real buyers that were looking to buy to stay. And that's why the rules of the property game in Malaysia has changed completely. If you look at KL, prices are highest here. New high rises keep coming, but many are overpriced for first-time buyers. And that's why you see units staying unsold for years, even after launch. In Johor, the Iskandar project promised a property boom, and developers built massive luxury projects for Singaporeans and Chinese buyers. And when that demand slowed, the result was ghost condos, oversupply without local buyers. Penang has limited land that keeps prices high, but population growth is also flat. So demand is strong for prime areas, but locals are increasingly priced out, leaving developers to court foreign retirees instead. The key takeaway of this is that Malaysia isn't just one story, but across KL, Johor and Penang, Millennials and Gen Z face the same challenge: high prices, stagnant wages, and mismatched supply. So what's the future of property in Malaysia? Property prices won't collapse everywhere, but we also won't see the runway of growth that our parents enjoyed. They just came from a very different time where population growth was still great and there was a huge population moving into the cities. Overhang units will also keep weighing down on new high-rise condos. Landed houses in good locations may hold some value, but the pool of buyers, if anything, is shrinking. House ownership rates among young Malaysians are actually dropping, and more Millennials and Gen Z may end up renting long term. Now, unless wages rise or supply shifts to more affordable housing, the dream of owning a home in Malaysia will keep slipping for the next generation. So the next time someone says property prices always go up, remember, that was true in our parents' era. But for us today, the Millennials and the Gen Z in Malaysia, the rules have already changed. The real question isn't whether property always goes up, it's whether you bought the right one at the right place at the right price. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and tell me in the comments, what was the price of your parents' first home versus what you're facing today?